All right, welcome. So today we're going to look at the number one thing that people do when they sit down that creates back pain. So go ahead and come on up to standing for a moment if you're not already standing. And just sit down like you normally would. So don't think about it, but what I want you to do is just pay attention to what you do and how you do it. So go ahead and sit down. And what you may have noticed, and say this is the case in the vast majority of people, is when they first go to sit down, most people will begin by bending the knees. So they'll drop the knees, and so this is already creating a sense of falling. The other thing that it does is it begins to round the pelvis. So the pelvis begins to tuck forward. So you can imagine if you had x-ray vision and you could see my sit bones, that the sit bones would start rounding forward. And so when I sit down in that way, I've already created this C shape in my posture. My tailbones are tucked forward, pointing towards my knees. My spine's compressed. And my head and shoulders have come forward. So I'm already set up to put a lot of strain on the lumbar discs. And/or if I try and come out of that by using my core and engaging my posture to pull myself up, pull back my shoulders, sit upright, what that's creating is just a whole lot of tension in your low back. So neither of those is a very good solution to the problem of back pain. And ideally what we want is for us to come to a spot where we can find clear skeletal support. So just to be clear, your sit bones are these two prominent points here. Okay? So when the tail's tucked under, people tend to sit more on the back side, but we actually want to be on the very bottom point right here. And the way we do that is when we begin to stand, instead of bending the knees first, we actually want to drive the hips back. So just as if you were a weightlifter and you had a barbell here and you wanted to do a deadlift and drop the barbell down, you can't bend the knees first because you can't bring the weight down. So you have to drive the hips back. So that's exactly what we're going to do. I'm going to start driving the hips back. And again, if you had the x-ray vision, you could see that my sit bones begin to tilt backwards, which opens up the glutes. So as I drive the hips back, now my torso has come forward as a counterbalance. I can bring my arms forward, and I've gotten to a point where now when I sit down, I can come right up on top of the sit bones. One other little trick you can do is grab a hold of your glutes, slide that glute tissue out a little bit, so you get right up on top of your sit bones. So that is the key to finding better, clear skeletal support, getting up on top of your sit bones. One other thing that I wanted to point out is that oftentimes when people will go to sit down, they will at some point fall at the very end. And that will also create tension and compression in the spine because the nervous system, as soon as your nervous system begins to notice that collapse, it's going to guard and tense up to catch you, bracing you from the fall. So even though it's not a very far, if you're doing that repeatedly over a lifetime, that's just putting more compression into your spine that's not necessary. So pay clear attention as you're coming down and just notice throughout your day, how many times do you sit and are you maintaining that counterbalance so that you at any moment could reverse the movement and not rely on the seat to catch you. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Feel free to ask any questions, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks.